This. Stop.
What's up?
Hey, Macarena.
Everybody's muted, but hello.
Yes, Dan.
Hello.
The technology is failing us. Thank you, StreamYard.
There we go.
Welcome back to Visited by Voices Live. Actually live for once. It's been a while.
Yes.
Do you guys want the barbed wire out of your
Next
faces?
up,
I
the
could take
legal stuff.
It's fine. It's kind of fun.
Okay. Let me know if it gets a little bristly down there.
He's used to it. It's a
That's the least of his problems.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Dhaakad. But we have some table setting to do before we do that, actually. And unfortunately, not a little bit, a lot of table setting to do. First off, I'm joined, of course, by Dan Shine from Fleshwound Features.
Hello, hello.
Jess Graham from the cable channel 11, broadcasting nightly from Minnesota. And new to the channel, but not new to the community, Miss Jessica from shortly launching Manifesting Fear.
Hey guys, what's up?
Hey.
Good to see you.
And I guess this is us. There may be more, but I'm not holding out hope because, it is a very cold, wintry December evening, and everyone is basically in wrist-slitting mode because of the holiday. So we're just going to keep each other company and talk about an Indian action film.
Agent Agni killed the other panelists. What you're going to do?
Well, that's not just them. So, bit of table setting. First off, thank you guys, man. First off, for taking a role with this movie, because I know I'm a broken record, right? I'm always talking about foreign and obscure, and I know that can be obnoxious and horrible. But I also feel like this was the perfect vehicle to hopefully get people to break down some of those barriers that have been holding them back from actually watching these movies. Because more than any other Indian film probably in history, this thing starts and just tells you, hello, I'm here. You're going to pay attention to me. So it seemed like the perfect thing to share with people. So on a not cold and not wintry, was it August? I think it was August, right? August day in Lexington?
October?
Was that October?
Yeah. Early October.
Man, I need to just die. But
You weren't even drinking or other
well, I don't do that. But I shared this movie with a room full of people who I think the alcohol made it so that they were a little more accepting than normal. I pushed play, and it was great to see a bunch of friends who usually talk about movies be able to watch a movie together. That's an amazing thing. But it was also great to see a whole lot of cheering and hooting and hollering and screaming at the screen at all the right moments. The kind of involvement we used to have with movies. And that's the other part of this, is that action films in America are in a really weird place. I think that's fair to say. When was the last American action film that you thought like really, I don't know, hit all the sweet spots you look for in an action film?
There's not a lot lately at all, not from the US. I mean,
John it could be at least 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, you'll get
10 years.
Yeah, you'll get like John Wick, which I enjoy those movies, but for the most part, it's
those were good.
overly flashy, like Fast and the Furious movies now, which have almost become total camp. They went to space. It's like I don't get that same feeling I got when Jean-Claude Van Damme threw a roundhouse kick and broke a guy's neck, or the American action film. It's not dead. Like comedy is kind of dead. It's just stagnant, unfortunately. And you do have to look overseas for that now, which we'll talk about this. I'm very eager.
But it's interesting that Patrick Swayze is a more legitimate action star than anything we got going now, right?
Oh yeah,
I'm talking about current Patrick Swayze too.
I don't know what it is, and granted, Dhaakad, female, very attractive action lead, but we don't get traditional action leads anymore. And we had female action stars. I know there's been this recent thing pretending Cynthia Rothrock didn't exist, or we've had female action stars. But
La Femme Nikita did not come out in 92. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah.
And actually, if you go back, I would say Fay Wray in Most Dangerous Game is pretty much an action star in that film.
Absolutely.
So it's not a new thing.
No, it's not a new thing. And I don't know what it is now. It's just they don't. The grizzled action star, I mean, it's holding on, but it's all people that started back in the heyday, pretty much. I guess Statham, but Statham's been around for over 20 years now. We just don't get the traditional badasses anymore. And that's sad to me. I don't know why. I guess it's a Marvel taking everything over kind of thing. But yeah, where's our Seagals? Where's our, Van Dammes? We don't have the new crop of that.
Jessica, before Dhaakad, favorite action film?
Oh gosh. Favorite action film is gonna be. Put me on the spot. How rude.
Spots should be put in.
It's gonna have to be. I love Tomb Raider, and whatever other films. I mean,
they don't like Tomb Raider, apparently.
Well, I think that they want to raid the tombs. That's the problem, as any kid would. Jess, favorite action film before Dhaakad?
It's gonna sound pretty lame probably to you, but I'd say Terminator 2 is up there. I mean, there's so many great ones. I'm actually a Die Hard with a Vengeance fan over even the original Die Hard.
I'm with you, brother.
Yeah, that's a great one.
It's the Die Hard movie with a plot.
Yeah, definitely.
I hear that more often now about Die Hard 3. It's a lot of people like, it's actually my favorite. And
if it had just had a different final scene, if they'd gone with the original final scene, because the game of Russian Roulette, I think they'd been fine.
Oh.
I think the Canadian shooting the helicopter sequence is a little flat for the rest of the movie. But yeah, no, I think that film has aged very, very, very well. And you can't really say that about. I mean, listen, I'm not going to talk shit about the original Die Hard. That's stupid to do. But the second film has not aged well, and the fourth and fifth films have, even though they're not that old, really haven't aged well. So,
well, the fifth film wasn't even anything to talk about when it was first released. Really, it sucked.
That film is strangely incomplete. Like, there's sequences that are not finished in that damn movie.
Well, you can clearly tell it's so jumbled. It's
crazy.
It's crazy, unwatchable, damn near.
So, with that, I mean, Dan, favorite action film? I didn't actually ask you.
So, growing up, Jean-Claude Van Damme was like my number one action star. So, I'm a big kickboxer, blood sport mark. But I also, as I of course was renting movies, I mean, I'm kind of simultaneously a child of the 70s, 80s, and 90s because, you know, I also really appreciated the gritty, like real violence of the 70s that we had in, you know, Bronson films, of course, like Death Wish being most famous. I really appreciated that, where it was like, it was a little more ugly. It wasn't stylized yet. You actually, you know, there were consequences to the violence, and I did appreciate that era as well. And
dude, yeah, Rolling Thunder is like friggin' action film that should be talked about a lot, and it's really not.
It's amazing. Race with the Devil, which
Two-Lane Blacktop, baby.
Yeah. All of that. The tons of great stuff coming out of Roger Corman's studio. I was really into that. Race with the Devil I mentioned because that's got the horror subplot, but it's still an action film. And I miss it. I mean, we do have Scott Adkins, not exactly new, but I guess that's as close as we get, and that's, you know, what, 15 years or so he's been on the scene. There are no new action stars. That's so depressing to me, and I don't get it. I feel like
is it Gerard Butler does those Everything Is Falling movies?
Yeah, he's, I guess, as close as we can get, but Gerard Butler's what, 54, 55 years. I mean, he's not a young man. He's been around for a long time too. So I can't count him as new. And that's sad. Yeah, I guess Gerard Butler and Liam Neeson, who's like in his 70s now, are like our action stars.
I have a very specific set of skills, including parking in the reserved parking spot and mall walking.
I mean, we don't even have the B stars. Do you remember in the 80s and 90s? I mean,
there's no video stores.
No, there's not, and there
has to be an outlet for that stuff, and there's not.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Dudikoff, Don the Dragon Wilson, Billy Blanks, Frank Zagarino. I mean, I'll get a little more obscure. There were a ton of them. Olivier Gruner, who actually came up on a recent show. Like,
it just doesn't feel like we can pick that same, you know, pick out your B movie stars from streaming, because there is a shit ton of lower budget movies out there on streaming. But for some reason, it is different than going to the video store and recognizing people from looking at the boxes, their names on the box and the little credits section.
Yeah. I mean, it's a budgetary thing too. I always tell people, go back to the 90s and look at what PM Entertainment was doing. Now, not the most original stuff. It was usually a ripoff of RoboCop, Terminator, Die Hard, whatever.
Sometimes all three simultaneously.
But look at the quality of those films. I miss just an old school explosion, stuntman flying through the air. You know, now it just feels like it's turned to a cartoon, and I don't like that.
Or we're watching people who could easily be our grandparents.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work. I hate to say it, but it's not going to work. Unless they made an age-appropriate action film, which would be fascinating. But so I guess enter Kangina Ranaut, who is a very serious Indian actress, mostly known for period dramas and romances and courtroom dramas, actually. And it was a big get for them to get her for this movie, because this is not in the wheelhouse you'd expect. But god damn it, someone had good impulses. I was lucky enough to see this in theaters. And that's, in a way, the shutdown year of COVID turned out to have a great blessing to the entertainment landscape, because now AMC and Regal are starting to show many more independent, smaller budgeted, and foreign films where that never was as close as it is now. Living in Jersey, if we drive down to Edison, there is a specialty theater that just shows Indian films. That's great, but I don't need to drive that far anymore.
Yeah.
Because, and it's, I think, in large part it is because people are hungry for something that feels legit, especially having just sat around in their underwear, pretending to work remotely. When watching Netflix all day, they went through every episode of The Office and they don't know what else to do. So real entertainment choices are more valuable now than ever. So I saw the trailer for this, and the thing was, it looked like an action film, like many Indian action films have a certain flamboyance that we used to get in America, right? But this thing looked like it was shot by people who actually were artists. It's as good a looking film as I've ever seen. And I was like, I got to see this movie, and I can see it on the big screen. Let's go. So the thing that blew me away in theaters was, the local Indian population was not taken with it. And in fact, it did very poorly in its theatrical release in India. Generally speaking, they thought it was too American. And they thought it didn't have enough local regional flair to it. This is a movie that does not stop itself to have all the characters sing, except when it's inside the plot, right? It doesn't have a music video. It's spaced at the 40-minute part.
Yeah.
And I think to another part of the problem is that the brutality in this movie is shocking by any standard. But India usually, although you can do a lot more than you used to be able to, this is a lot. This movie has a higher body count than any Schwarzenegger epic, including Total Recall.
More direct sexuality too, a lesbian character. I don't see that very often. I mean, my experience with Indian films is mostly horror, a little comedy, a little action, but I certainly don't see that. The strip club scene, I mean, there's no direct nudity in the film, but that also seemed pretty daring for an Indian movie, which I can imagine this.
I was going to say, it didn't feel anything gratuitous either at the same time.
No. But, Indian movies, you don't, at least in my experience, I don't see that. And this one is very easy to recommend because it is a very Americanized Indian film, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think they get it right. I'd like to see more of this. It's a shame because I think if this had the right marketing, I could have easily have seen it turning into like a Run Lola Run cult classic where it can get a theatrical release. I don't know if everybody remembers that movie, but that was kind of a thing. Like you saw it at the theater and I'm like, this is a foreign film. This is awesome.
So Run Lola Run was just remade in India as Loop Lapita, starring Taapsee Pannu.
Oh, wow.
So it all comes full circle.
Yeah. And I don't know what the numbers were on that, but I know a lot of people were really obsessed with that movie and loved it when it came out.
No, it was one of the big 90s hits for indie and international, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So just Dan, you're in a hotel room in Lexington, Kentucky. We're fighting with a television and a Blu-ray player because it won't fucking work. I walk down to the front desk and demand that they give us the original remote, not the piece of shit replacement they gave us so we could actually watch the movie. They refuse. So I run to a Walmart, and the next day we were able to finally actually watch the movie. Can I get your guys' impressions of like that first viewing and even just the night? Because honestly, the audience that's watching this probably cares as much about that night as they do about the movie.
I'll go ahead and start us off from what I remember. There was a lot of drinking going on at the same time.
Yeah.
Not Lauren, which is amazing because he's still a blast. So we were expecting originally you were going to play this the Sunday morning you were leaving and most people were leaving. And so we're drinking Saturday night, and I was trying to think of every single person who was there. I know Monty, obviously you two, Jay
Nick
and
was
Christian,
there. Yeah.
Nick, Corey, I think was still there. We'd quite the group. And I'd gone out for a smoke, come back. I'd done that a lot. And Lauren, he'd finally gotten the TV connected, figured out, rigged it. And he's like, so we're going to watch this movie. And I don't know if I asked you then or afterwards is this the movie we were going to watch in the morning? And he said, yeah. He goes, I started to realize that probably wouldn't have happened with all this drinking and craziness going on. Nobody was going to be up at that hour. Now, I would have probably tried to fight it, but you're right. It might have been you and then me just freaking half hungover sitting there watching a movie together, Lauren, which could have been fun.
I find half hungover unlikely.
True.
But I will
That could
say,
have been
on that
fun.
Sunday morning, Jess was the one awake. So I will say that.
Say goodbye. We had a good conversation, but
Yeah.
maybe that another day, or we'll just keep that. to
We won't
ourselves.
admit to making out.
No, but really, so I'm thinking, okay, I've been wanting to sit down with this group. A lot what attracted me to watching these guys when I first started watching them before joining was, it'd be great to sit down on a couch with these guys and just watch a movie. I'm sure that'll never happen though. And it did. But back to Saturday night, I go in circles, my mind. So we sit down to watch it, and I'm thinking, I've been drinking. I usually am not good if I've drank a lot, like to focus. So I'm thinking, oh shit, this is gonna kind of drag on, or I'm not gonna be able to focus. But man, this movie captured my attention. And what was the runtime? Because I felt like it was like at most an hour and a half, and I think it was actually over a 2-hour movie.
Just over 2.
Yeah.
Just over 2.
It's
So
like
there's-
about 2 hours and 15 minutes. So
Yeah.
who's counting?
But you don't count the minutes. It keeps you so entertained. Nothing dragged to me. I think because I was drinking, I stepped out in the middle of it to have a cigarette, and I was just kind of like, nobody has to stop it. Well, graciously, thankfully, you guys did, and we all went out for kind of an intermission, chatted just 5 minutes or whatever, and we were right back in the movie. And I'm telling you, the fast pace. You were talking about, I hate to use the word now because of somebody in the past, but the cinematography really is amazing. It is amazing. It doesn't look like a lot of foreign films look like.
No.
And you're right. The action, I don't think I've seen something this action-packed or this well done with action in a lot of years here in the States. And it's not just a bunch of quick cuts. You actually see these shots. I'm
There's
losing my
actually
train of thought.
there's actually geography to the action sequences, right? You know
That's
where
a great
things
way
are.
to put it. Yeah. It's not,
Steven
cut,
Seagal's
cut.
everywhere.
Exactly. You actually can really see the action filmed, and it's not cheat. You don't feel cheated, and and that's really cool.
It's not that Born Identity kind of like I don't even know what's going on sort of cuts in the action, which is it's another thing we lack. Another one that I would throw out there is not one but 2 really fantastic villains. Arjun Rampal, I'm sorry if I'm saying the name wrong, but is Rudavir, amazing.
And he's a huge actor in all North cinema in India, like huge.
Yeah,
And
he's
actually,
very good.
Go ahead and say the other name because she is too. So
Divya Dutta as
Dutta.
Rohini.
Yep.
Amazing.
And she actually just released a book about her career that's available in English, and I'm really thinking I'm going to dive into it. They're longtime television and film stars that have had really huge careers. And again, this production attracted real actors, not just action stars, and that's that's kind of amazing too, to get this caliber. But take us to that night, Dan. What were you thinking? I know you're open to almost any kind of film, so that might be a little bit different for you.
Yeah, no, I am. I'll try anything. And
We know.
As far
We saw.
as far as Indian films go, like I said, I'm not an expert outside of the horror genre, so it's not entirely new. There was RRR, which was amazing this year. I think in some ways this is probably an easier ask for people because RRR, the only thing it has going against it is a really long runtime. But this, I think, is a very accessible movie. I just hope people are able to see it. And going back to that night, yeah, I was very excited. I know it was a battle trying to figure out how to get that Blu-ray to work in that hotel room, but we finally, well, not we, you finally figured it out. And yeah, I wish we probably should have just recorded the whole thing
Action,
because everybody was digging it. As far as I'm aware, Christian loved it. I know he couldn't be here tonight. Everybody's busy with holiday stuff, but I think Nick loved it. Jay loved it. Just everybody that was in that room that night, which basically all of us just about, we had maybe 70% of at least the podcasters there. So that was really cool. It's a great audience film. I wish there was some kind of distributor out here that would highlight these a little bit more. I 100% could have seen this becoming a Run Lola Run. I'm not the only person out there that's like, man, I wish we had action heroes again.
You're not.
Yeah, there was a film, I can't remember which one it was, about 6 months or so ago. It looked like the movie wasn't going to play. There was a screen issue, and I just had a conversation with this actually elderly man who we were talking about A-list, and he had asked me out of nowhere, it's like, do you go to any of these Indian movies? And I'm like, oh yeah, anytime I can. And he mentioned RRR, and I hadn't seen this yet at this point, but I think he name dropped that Dhaakad that he heard was really good. And so I thought that was cool. And there is a hunger for it. He's like, yeah, man, like there's no, Liam Neeson's about my age, and I like kind of need some younger action stars out there.
You triggered something. Sorry, that when you said it's an audience film, totally. And again, going back to getting to hang with you guys in a room, we're all sitting on the couch together. Throughout it, several times there were cheers, some music started going, everybody was bobbing their head, just and it was like, oh man, oohs and ahs, and we were all doing that in the room, and that was a really cool experience. So it definitely is an audience film.
Christian was all about the bass drops.
Yeah. Now the lighting, everything, just it's a gorgeous looking movie at the same time. That the repeat of that song that I won't give anything away because I'm assuming a lot of you watching this haven't seen the movie yet, but the scene where we're assuming somebody's dead and he picks up the phone and she starts singing it to him. I was like, there was just so many like badass moments. And comparing it to a John Wick, which I like the John Wick movies, but I think those movies almost suffer from never slowing down even for a second. And, it's like, give me a little more character stuff. This movie, tons of great action, but it still has heart too, which I think since the first John Wick, you've kind of lacked a little bit. So I would highly recommend this to anybody. And if you're thinking, I don't know, Indian films aren't for me, I still think this one will appeal to you more so than anything we've done on this channel before in terms of Indian film. I think all of but one I've liked, so I might just have a thing for them.
Well, we know I do.
The Yogi Babu movie, the name's escaped.
Oh, well, the trip is all, but we said the trip is awful. We didn't sugarcoat that.
Yeah.
In fact, I sent you that movie because it was awful. So I want to point out that you mentioned something, which is that you feel there's an audience for this. Well, you know what? The numbers are proving there's an audience for it. Not last weekend, but the weekend before, the number 11 film domestically in America was hit to The Second Story, which is an Indian procedural serial killer cop film, which had a higher per screen average than anything that week. So yeah, something is happening. It's opening up. And you know what? The world's better for it. And this isn't just about India, but India, because they were a British colony, there is a lot of English spoken in the films. There's a lot of cultural touchstones that are easy to connect with. So that's a big deal. Now, Jess, I know that you watched this film on a small screen for the first time. I think you sent me a photo of it. I think there's Christmas lights around the tree.
Yes.
So tell me your first impressions.
Um,
Did
So
you think
it's
it was
not-
a sexy movie?
oh yeah, for sure. So it's not the first time I've seen it. Actually, that photo, I was watching it without subtitles, so it was more interesting to try and figure out what they were saying again. But no, it's just a great film. There's so much action. The actors and the actresses are amazing. If you don't think you're into Indian films, this is the way to go. First one to watch is definitely this movie for sure.
Now we've talked. You also saw an Indian action film called Om,
Om.
which while not as good as this, is still a lot of fun. And there is a guy who takes down a helicopter with a chain. Oh, spoilers.
Yeah, that's a great movie too.
Yeah. So am I right to say that your introduction to Indian film is very recent?
Yes.
So you're entering these waters at the same time. Dan and Jess are really. I mean, Dan has seen some stuff, obviously. Jess, I don't know how much you've seen.
Not a ton. You've introduced me to the most, and so far your major recommendations to me I've loved. I've talked about it several times. Psycho 2020.
Love it.
Great film.
Great film. Great
Great
film.
horror film.
If you love giallos, that's a must watch. So
I'm
just
fairly new.
So just, I mean, you're right in league with these guys. What appealed to you about it?
You saying chess or Jess?
Both. I can't make up my mind.
You're gonna have to repeat that.
Go ahead,
question.
Chess.
Oh,
Go
okay.
ahead, Chess. I think it's more free. I've kind of talked.
Go ahead.
So I'm being new to it and having a strong reaction like you clearly have. Like what appeals to you about the movie? Most, anyway.
It's not like American films. I mean, I feel like all the American films right now, everything is kind of copy paste, and it seems like everything that's coming out is the same, or they're backtracking to recreate older films that should just be left alone.
Well, hallelujah to that. So I'm brought to a specific moment in the film, which I'm not going to spoil, but it's a big moment in the movie where something happens that's not supposed to ever happen in action films. I can clearly remember multiple people in that hotel room yelling out obscenities because they could not believe what the movie had just done. I can't think of another action film that's ever had that big of a surprise moment. And I want to talk about the scene that precedes that moment. But what was your guys' impression without giving away what the scene is?
It's so hard to without describing it, but it's kind of like we were bringing up earlier, just being a part of a group watching it, part of what in those moments. It, like you said, it got a reaction out of all of us at the same time. We were all gasping and cheering or just jaw dropping. Like I can't believe they did that, but in a great way.
I agree. I showed this film to a group of people in Jersey before you guys, and when they resolve like how that scene ultimately plays out, very, very vocally, my friend Neil says, yeah, you know what? I buy that. I wouldn't buy it in another movie, but I want to buy it, so I'd buy it. And I think that's kind of the wonder of this movie, is that it convinces you to want the ride to be fun. And American cinema is in a place where not a lot is fun. Listen, everyone knows my feelings on Jim Cameron, so I'm not going to beat on Jim Cameron tonight. But watch the Avatar trailer. Nothing. I felt absolutely nothing. I didn't feel wonder. I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel any kind of tension. I didn't feel like, I felt nothing. It felt like I was watching
there's another one,
an animated cereal commercial from the 90s. Really, I mean, I felt nothing.
I don't want to see that. I have no desire. The first one wasn't even that good. I don't care what you say.
Well, I've never seen it, but Dhaakad feels like the anti-Avatar to me, because it's authentic all the way through, even with this big, broad, crazy story. I will reveal this. There is definitely a miniature drone in the shape of a dragonfly in this movie. That's straight out of a Bond film. But it's such a fun scene. You're okay with it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That could play really badly if they tried it in a lesser film. But it's a fun moment. And I think there's a lot of fun moments. There's a illegal fighting ring sequence in the film, which is mostly played as a joke. And there's crazy stuff in that too. But again, like, you want to be on the film's side.
It works though. Yeah, it somehow works.
And then we come to the coalfield battle.
Oh, yeah.
Which, in my opinion, is the best action sequence ever put to film. It's a 14-minute straight-on military assault that goes way wrong. And I watched that sequence and I realized that I think it's more effective than the opening of Saving Private Ryan. And that's disturbing to me. It really is, because I think Saving Private Ryan is one of those films that opens a lot stronger than it runs, but that opening changed cinema.
Yeah.
But that coalfield fight is brutal, is next level brutal.
Yeah, no, that's a hell of a sequence. And that, again, just the way it was all lit, the practical action, explosions, that's an adrenaline rush that, again, you just don't get that often anymore. I mean, I'm trying to think what action movies I even bothered seeing in theaters this year. I can't come up with with anything off of the top of my head. I'm out of all the Marvel DC stuff, so I saw the Batman. I guess that would be the most recent thing I can think of, and
in all of its glorious two colors.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I really hope this takes off. I think with the Indian population in general, at some point we are going to get that massive breakaway hit that will change things. I think something like this could be that. But if it's not this, it's going to be something, because you're slowly RRR got a lot of coverage. Yeah. I saw that on podcasts and channels that I don't think I've ever covered an Indian film. So I do feel like it's just a question of when. And if we're not going to produce it, hell, yeah, I'm happy for it to come from anywhere. And we talk a lot of horror on this channel, obviously, but there's stuff coming out of Malaysia, Indonesia, Turkey, that rivals a lot of the stuff that we do. And I think it's just kind of breaking that mindset of I don't know, Indian movie, Middle Eastern movie, that is very prevalent, but I think it's starting to be whittled down a little bit as people get their kind of Marvel burnout and they're just looking for something new to kind of broaden their horizons. I think that change is coming, and Dhaakad would be a good one to do that. You know, I don't know if that's going to happen now, but you know, go out and try and find it, try and watch it if you can. I don't know where this is officially streaming right now, or
Well, it's a Z production, so it's definitely a Z5. But I think Amazon has it for rental and sale. I
okay,
think.
there you go.
I'm not sure if Netflix has it.
I
I don't know if
don't
they're
think so, because I was looking for it for a couple other people in our group, and all I saw was Z5. Is that right?
Z5 is a pretty decent service. You just got to watch. Not everything has subs, but it's a pretty decent service. Cheap too.
I do want to say it kind of goes along with Dan was saying about over here in the state. I don't know if it'll happen, but I think they should start looking at this talent and bringing some of these directors to direct some American films. I
Oh, yeah.
really, really do. And you might, and this goes back to me saying we need to stop trying to make every big blockbuster action film a $200 million budget. You don't need to spend that fucking kind of money to make a great movie. And this is an example of that. It looks better than most $200 million budgeted movies here in America.
Yeah.
So part of this is that India has a bigger film industry, and it's a lot more decentralized than America. I mean, America is decentralizing. That process is happening, but still, the majority of things that are going to get a theatrical release come out of one state.
Yeah.
Whereas in India, in the north you have, obviously Bollywood, but in the south you have a lot of regional films in the Tamil language or the Telugu language to the east, or even Kannada. So there's a lot more product out there. They make more films than we do, and at one time they had a reputation of like just making cheap ripoffs of American films, right? We're way beyond that now. We're going to start being the ones following their trail, I think, if we don't start just picking up our game.
Yeah.
All right. So the last thing I really wanted to talk. Oh, actually, before I do that, Miss Sam sent me her review. And where is it? Okay, so I'm going to read that to you because unfortunately Sam couldn't be here tonight. Well, that's not true. She could be here, but we wouldn't be able to understand her, and I think she doesn't want to infect us with post-surgery images.
We could have given her the Funaki subtitles. She'll get that. You won't, but she'll get that.
Is that an anime or a wrestling thing?
Indeed.
Or both?
Indeed. Not anime wrestling.
Okay. No, then I will not get
She'll laugh, though. So.
Okay. All right. I'm going to skip one thing in here that she wrote. So I'm not for censorship, but this is a non-spoiler show on this movie because I do think it'd be a real shame to like give away some of the big plot points. Besides the drones in the shape of dragonflies. I had a great time with Dhaakad and thoroughly enjoyed this action movie. If you're a fan of that genre, you won't be disappointed. But if you aren't normally into action films, you'll probably still like it. I think a lot of mainstream audiences took to John Wick because while many of us have lost someone close, we all have lost a pet that meant everything to us in the world. And if you had to watch it be killed by a bunch of scumbags, yeah, we can all feel that desire for revenge. Dhaakad pulls off that level of relatability between Agent Agni and the audience in a more natural way. She's constantly dealing with her own trauma from seeing her parents murdered and being raised by an assassin. That just compounds it. Her walls are very high, and the only person who manages to climb them is Fazal's daughter, the personification of her inner child. She also doesn't come off as superhuman. She has to staple her leg wound shut, and the bad guys do get the drop on her multiple times. All that happens before the credits roll, by the way, the opening credits roll. Got to skip that. Watching her heal and have to get stronger made me root for her more, and really despise Retta and Rodini. Every action film needs a memorable villain, and I was invested in them almost as much as Agni. Their backstory, as told through the Bonnie and Clyde-esque intro, is nearly good enough to be its own movie. Ruta is controlled chaos, while Rohini is calculated sadism. But still, Rohini supremacy. That's her hashtag. She's not the baddest bitch on the block. She is the block. And that's what I wanted. That was the segue. I wanted to talk about villains.
Yeah.
We, as a group, we were talking about Nighthawks the other night. Which, if you would ask me what my favorite Stallone film is, it'd be Nighthawks. And it is all about the villain. I find it impossible really to cheer for a hero unless the villain is at least of equal stature, and probably if they're more formidable. The challenge is, of course, no action star should feel slight, right? Otherwise, it just seems just completely improbable. What this film does is set up kind of a Mickey and Mallory-esque villains who are ultra violent, ultra nasty, completely sadistic, into every criminal enterprise imaginable, but yet don't come off as completely, I don't know, mustache twirling villains. They feel like these are, unfortunately, people who probably are out in our world. But goddamn, are they magnetic to watch, right? They're some of the greatest villains. This film is my favorite action film of all time. It contains what I think is indisputably the best action sequence of all time. And I think it might have the best villains ever as well. So how did you guys feel about the villains?
Well, yeah, that is also something that often lacks now for every, Jean-Claude Van Damme or, Steven Seagal that we don't have. We also don't really have the Billy Dragos or Richard Lynch's of the world anymore. I think Arjan Rampal and Divya Dutta, I think, were excellent. I mean, and like you said, I mean, there's maybe some mustache twirling, I suppose, like with any villain, but these are memorable characters. They're nasty. I feel like, I want to say it was like the second Taken movie, dealt with some similar kind of villains. It might have been the first one. They kind of bleed together, but you could tell they kind of softened it a little bit. Like, no, we don't want to quite go that hard with it. And this one doesn't do that. I mean, again, it's not, showing certain things, but it still shows the ugliness of the violence. And, certain people are not safe from these types of people. So, you have to have that element of real danger in these movies that I think you could argue in some ways we started to lose a little bit in the 80s. That's why, again, going back to the 70s and just that raw nastiness that we had in the, I guess we could call it the Bronson era. This, I think, had a good mix of all of that. Rousing action, really ugly villains that you're really rooting to see die. Even though it takes a while to get there. They throw some surprises in here with this one, and I think that's really cool. And again, I would also throw out, maybe again being an Indian film, that we just have a badass female action star. They don't need to make that a sort of thing where like Brie Larson is going on social media and crapping on everybody, essentially taunting people. Why? If you're good, you're good. I didn't think she was very good, but the Wonder Woman actress,
Well, that
she
shouldn't
was
be
good.
the focus. You just did it right there. What we have in front of us is an amazing fucking badass action star. It doesn't matter whether she's female or if it was male or if Indian or American, or it's just a badass action star.
And believable. She pulled it off. While a lot,
Totally.
Well, she pulls it off because she takes bullets and she gets stabbed and bad things happen to her, which why the problem what you're talking about is not so much the messaging, it's always bad writing. It's always that's what reduces these films. Bad writing will say, okay, we want this to be a strong female character, so we'll make all the men either insufferable fools or pure evil or irrelevant. We can't write a strong male character, otherwise our female character might not look as strong. That's bad writing.
Yeah.
This movie does not do that. This movie says, okay, everyone gets to be formidable. Hell, the title of the film translates to formidable. And that's good writing. And just before you go, I just want to say, you talk about, Dan mentioned that there's a film where bad things happen to people, and more so than in American films. Yeah, there's not a kneecap that's safe in this movie. There's a lot of bullets that shatter some pretty vital bones. So, just on the left, below me, villains, talk.
Well, gosh, I mean, what more is there to say than what Dan said already? They're believable and great actors. You want to see them. You want to see them get killed, basically. I was trying to say, you want to see the revenge happen on them, or the avenging towards them, because they are so good. They're so unlikable, and that's great because a lot of them, American villains, again, we keep bringing up the modern ones these days. You don't really feel that way. You're not into it that much that you really do care whether they get the villain or not. And I think sometimes they're almost intentionally, they want you to like the villain these days. And that's not cool. That's not what you really want when you're cheering on a hero in an action movie. You don't want to like the villain. You want to despise him. So that's
very much so.
That's what I got. Am I coming in? I feel like I'm breaking up too.
No, you are fine.
Okay.
And I would just point out that Rudra is one of the best lumberjacks out there, because he works axe like no one's business. Yeah, Jason Voorhees has nothing on this cat when it comes to separating people from their vital organs with an axe.
Arjun.
Oh, that's the actor's first name.
Yeah.
Have you seen Manic Karnika, the Queen of Jhansi? I know that's another historical action
I've
film.
not.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed that one, and I was kind of curious. It looked pretty good.
That's the problem, though. I have this list of all these Indian films I need to track down because there's so fucking many, and there's so many come out. So, just diagonally from me, talk villains.
Okay, I'm going to try and make this quick before there's more noise. I can't say much about this film with the villains without giving anything away. Damn, is it a good movie? I don't know. There's nothing like it here, for sure. And we definitely need some of those producers producing American films, because it's just something completely different.
You know how we get that to happen?
Same way that we tweet.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I mean, we get word out, and when a hit to the second case shows up, we go to see it and we support it, and maybe we do take this. Look, we're gonna lose Shudder soon, so we might as well throw that money at Z for like a month and see if we like it, right?
Yeah.
Because you're gonna find a ton of things that you didn't even know existed. That'll be brand new experiences. Hearts Never Forget is a film that is. We covered it as an obscurity report title here. It's unlike anything you'll ever see in your life. I promise you. And it would never be produced in America. Right? I mean, so...
It's too bad.
Well, that's it, right? I mean, when you look at the release schedule in your local cinema, like nothing is ever a surprise, right? I mean, now it's getting better again, but what's really annoying is that when I pull up a listing for any of these AMC's or Regals, there's the listing of the big titles, and then it says more at the bottom, and I have to click more to see the movies that I might actually want to see. But I will say, Hit when it came out 2 weeks ago had more screens that added to it than like after its first few days. It actually grew to 800 screens nationwide, which is not a wide release, but that's not a niche release either. That's bigger than like a Fathom event.
Yeah. I think there's more people that are hungry for new stuff that just don't know where to look. There's more than you think, and it's just going to take a little bit of time for it to improve. But I think there's positive signs. I'm more of an AMC guy because I have AMC A-list, and I'm seeing more and more and more, smaller screenings, some indie stuff you wouldn't expect. I'm seeing more Indian films. And, I do think there's signs of progress on that front.
Oh, I definitely think so too. All right, we're going to wrap it up because we got the hour point here, which means we can all go to bed and sleep off some of this December nonsense. Wake up and there'll be even more white crap out there, I'm sure. But anyway, final thoughts on the film. And I don't know that I'll be live before the holiday again. So I don't forget, like everyone, so whatever you celebrate it. If you don't celebrate anything, celebrate hard that you don't celebrate anything, because that's probably the sane route. Dan, final thoughts?
Well, it's an excellent film, and do your part, I guess. Hashtag Dhaakad, drop the trailer in some different groups. If there's people that liked RRR, maybe you can see some of those posts and say, have you heard of Dhaakad? I think all of us have to do that a little bit more and not, just talk about, the latest Netflix, Stranger Things, whatever, that gets plenty of coverage. So the stuff that you like this, you really just have to spread the word. Drop a trailer, just a simple, hey, if you like that, I think you might like this. You don't have to do a review to get the word out. So that would be my suggestion.
All right. Well, my final thoughts is watch this. And I know I consider myself a film buff, but that doesn't mean I'm running out there grabbing all the foreign releases. And it's got to be a pretty special movie for me, even me, to want to watch a movie with subtitles, not in my native language. But this one is entertaining, and give it a chance. If you're an action film fan, definitely give this a shot, because it's an amazing fucking film.
Yeah, no, I got it. Jess, your final thoughts, but before that, for next Halloween, which outfit that Agni wears will be your Halloween costume?
So my final thoughts are definitely watch this movie. Definitely drop the trailer, drop a link, anything, anywhere. Just get it out there. Definitely try and watch other films related. Because I watched 3 other films last night. I don't remember the names. I'm going to have to go back and double check. But it's definitely a beautiful monster.
And with that, I'll just leave us as happy December, guys. To the guys on the panel now, thank you so much for coming on. It means a lot to me to spread the word about this stuff. You know how I feel about I feel like if we don't grassroots change it, it doesn't change. So thank you, everyone out there watching. Stay safe, and definitely as the new year starts, maybe the resolution should be just keep the blinders off. There's a lot of great stuff out there. It's a wonderful world if you let it be. All right, be good, have fun. And where is my outro? Who knows? It's lost for good. And Luc Besson made it work. And Hollywood
Yeah, I love
said,
that.
"We can do it."
You okay, buddy?
Yeah.
You okay?
Oh,
Who said witchcraft doesn't work?
I'll be back in a moment.
In 1977, news anchorman Virgil Meadowlark had some kind of breakdown on national television. Started babbling, speaking in tongues. The network released a press release saying he'd had a stroke. Whatever happened, he never went back to broadcasting. Instead, he disappeared from public life for 3 years. Then, in 1980, he published a book, Perihelion. Bestseller right from the word go, which, by the way, is the first word of the first chapter. Go, find yourself. It didn't stay just a book for all that long. Readers became converts. They pooled their money and bought a town, Meadowlark's childhood home, Badger, Wisconsin, and renamed it Perihelion. I run a company that does impossible things. Sometimes with words and smiles, sometimes with Kevlar vests and AR-15s. It all depends on the job. For this one, the Perihelion job, we're going to need more than communication skills and good aim. We're gonna need a fucking miracle.